From Marley and Me. The writer of this excerpt describes the experiences he and his wife Jenny have with their dog Marley. Here they have just brought Marley, who is a young puppy, to their home. For the next 3 days, I threw myself with abandon into our new puppy. I lay on the floor with him and let him scamper all over me. I wrestled with him. I used an old hand towel to play tug-of-war with him and was surprised at how strong he already was. He followed me everywhere and tried to gnaw on anything he could get his teeth around. It took him just one day to discover the best thing about his new home, toilet paper. He disappeared into the bathroom and, 5 seconds later, came racing out, the end of the toilet paper roll clenched in his teeth, a paper ribbon unrolling behind him as he sprinted across the house. The place looked like it had been decorated for Halloween. Every half hour or so I would lead him into the backyard to relieve himself. When he had accidents in the house, I scolded him. When he peed outside, I placed my cheek against his and praised him in my sweetest voice. And when he pooped outside, I carried on as though he had just delivered the winning Florida Lotto ticket. When Jenny returned from Disney World, she threw herself into him with the same utter abandon. It was an amazing thing to behold. As the days unfolded, I saw in my young wife a calm, gentle, nurturing side I had not known existed. She held him, she caressed him, she played with him, she fussed over him. She combed through every strand of his fur in search of fleas and ticks. She rose every couple of hours through the night, night after night, to take him outside for bathroom breaks. That, more than anything, was responsible for him becoming fully housebroken in just a few short weeks. Mostly, she fed him. Following the instructions on the bag, we gave Marley 3 large bowls of puppy chow a day. He wolfed down every morsel in a matter of seconds. What went in came out, of course, and soon our backyard was as inviting as a minefield. We didn't dare venture out into it without eyes sharply peeled. If Marley's appetite was huge, his droppings were huger still, giant mounds that looked virtually unchanged from what had earlier gone on in the other end. Was he even digesting this stuff? Apparently he was. Marley was growing at a furious pace. Like one of those amazing jungle vines that can cover a house in hours, he was expanding exponentially in all directions. Each day he was a little longer, a little wider, a little taller, a little heavier. He was 21 pounds when I brought him home, and within weeks was up to 50. His cute little puppy head, that I had so easily cradled in one hand as I drove him home that first night, had rapidly morphed into something resembling the shape and heft of a blacksmith's anvil. His paws were enormous, his flanks already rippled with muscle, and his chest almost as broad as a bulldozer. Just as the books promised, his slip of a puppy tail was becoming as thick and powerful as an otter's. What a tail it was! Every last object in our house that was at knee level or below was knocked asunder by Marley's wildly wagging weapon. He cleared coffee tables, scattered magazines, knocked framed photographs off shelves, sent beer bottles and wine glasses flying. He even cracked a pane in the French door. Gradually, every item that was not bolted down migrated to higher ground safely above the sweep of his swinging mallet. Our friends with children would visit and marvel. "Your house is already baby-proofed." Marley didn't actually wag his tail. He more wagged his whole body, starting with the front shoulders and working backward. He was like the canine version of Slinky. We swore there were no bones inside him, just one big elastic muscle. Jenny began calling him Mr. Wiggles. And at no time did he wiggle more than when he had something in his mouth. His reaction to any situation was the same. Grab the nearest shoe or pillow or pencil, really, any item would do, and run with it. Some little voice in his head seemed to be whispering to him, "Go ahead, pick it up, drool all over it, run." Some of the objects he grabbed were small enough to conceal, and this especially pleased him. He seemed to think he was getting away with something. But Marley would never have made it as a poker player. When he had something to hide, he could not mask his glee. He was always on the rambunctious side, but then there were those moments when he would explode into a manic sort of hyperdrive, as if some invisible prankster had just goosed him. His body would quiver, his head would bob from side to side, and his entire rear end would swing forth in sort of a spastic dance. We called it the Marley Mambo. "All right, what have you got this time?" I'd say as I approached. He would begin evasive action, waggling his way around the room, hips sashaying, head flailing up and down like a whinnying filly's, so overjoyed with his forbidden prize he could not contain himself. When I would finally get him cornered and pry open his jaws, I never came up empty-handed. Always there was something he had plucked out of the trash or off the floor, or as he got taller, right off the dining room table. Paper towels, Wadded Kleenex, grocery receipts, wine corks, paper clips, chess pieces, bottle caps. It was like a salvage yard in there. One day I pried open his jaws and peered in to find my paycheck plastered to the roof of his mouth. Within weeks, we had a hard time remembering what life had been like without our new boarder. Quickly, we fell into a routine. I started each morning, before the first cup of coffee, by taking him for a brisk walk down to the water and back. After breakfast and before my shower, I patrolled the backyard with a shovel, burying his landmines in the sand at the back of the lot. Jenny left for work before 9, and I seldom left the house before 10, first locking Marley out in the concrete bunker with a fresh bowl of water, a host of toys, and my cheery directive to be a good boy, Marley. By 12:30, Jenny was home on her lunch break when she would give Marley his midday meal and throw him a ball in the backyard until he was tuckered out. In the early weeks, she also made a quick trip home in the middle of the afternoon to let him out. After dinner, most evenings, we walked together with him back to the waterfront where we would stroll along the Intracoastal as the yachts from Palm Beach idled by in the glow of the sunset. Stroll is probably the wrong word. Marley strolled like a runaway locomotive strolls. He surged ahead, straining against his leash with everything he had, choking himself hoarse in the process. We yanked him back, he yanked us forward. We tugged, he pulled. Coughing like a chain smoker from the collar strangling him. He veered left and right, darting to every mailbox and shrub, sniffing, panting, and peeing without fully stopping, usually getting more pee on himself than the intended target. He circled behind us, wrapping the leash around our ankles before lurching forward, nearly tripping us. When someone approached with another dog, Marley would bolt at them joyously, rearing up in his hind legs when he reached the end of his leash, dying to make friends. He sure seemed to love life, one dog owner commented, and that about said it all.